8th Grade Intervention Level Language Arts Literary Case Study by Andy De La Cruz, Kylie Moe, Ann Peach, and Rebecca Stephen. Background. This case study is based on Michael Johnson, an 8th grade 13-year-old student who studies at King Intermediate. He moved from Orem, Utah to Kaneohe, Oahu in January of 2012. Michael is in the High Average Language Arts class taught by Mrs. Kahana, an experienced language arts and special ed teacher of 25 years. She has previously taught her students critical thinking methods starting from the beginning of the 2011-2012 school year. King Intermediate is ethnically diverse with a range of students whose parents or grandparents hail from various Asian countries and Pacific Islands. In Orem, Utah, the strategy many students are taught is rote memorization. Michael has struggled to use the critical thinking strategies taught in class. He feels that he does not need to stray from his current strategy because he is doing fine in his class at that moment. Mrs. Kahana is worried that he will not do well when he transfers to Castle High School in 9th grade, where more critical thinking is required. Overall objective. After Mrs. Kahana's observation, she concluded that Michael will need special attention to develop his critical thinking skills. Mrs. Kahana wrote the following objectives for Michael. Michael will critically think about concepts to comprehend instead of using rote memorization to memorize correct answers through analyzing, describing, interpreting, inferring, evaluating, and explaining. Goals. Lesson objectives and standards. Mrs. Kahana chose 2 benchmarks to implement critical thinking skills among the whole class, knowing that Michael would need extra attention to develop these skills. The following are the benchmarks Mrs. Kahana chose for the lessons and the outcomes that she had expected from the students as a result of those lessons. LA 8.2.4. Make inferences based on explicit and implied information. LA 8.3.4. Explain literary devices. Lesson outcomes. Number 1. Students will find examples of literary devices in the given text and write a 2 to 3 sentence explanation on how the example shows the literary device. Number 2. Students will use their prior knowledge of explicit and implied information to find literary devices and infer their meaning. Scenario. Mrs. Kahana recognizes that Michael is struggling with critical thinking, which is evident in his grades. For example, when she taught a lesson on themes, Michael was unable to employ critical thinking skills. Michael is able to memorize the definition of what a theme is and therefore did well on the activity that required him to define them. Michael could not comprehend the definition when applied to text. In addition, he cannot critically think to find a theme in the story to interpret the author's message. As a result, he did poorly on the activity that required him to find the different themes in stories. In contrast to the majority of the students in his class who were able to make the connection between understanding what a theme is and then finding one and using it to interpret a story, he is not able to do those things. His grades compared to his classmates' grades are evidence of this. See Appendix 4. Mrs. Kahana became aware of Michael's problem with critical thinking at this time and made the overall objective for the rest of the school year for him. The following lessons show the next topic, literary devices, that Mrs. Kahana is teaching her students, which encompass the second 2 specific objectives. Lesson 1. The objective of the first lesson is to determine the purpose of each literary device. Lesson activities included matching up literary devices with their definitions. Michael memorized the definitions and matched them up with the literary device perfectly. See Appendix 1. Lesson 2. The objective of the second lesson was that students would apply the use of literary devices such as symbol, metaphor, simile, etc. Lesson activities included having students find an example of the literary device in the text and write a couple of sentences explaining it. See Appendix 2. Michael struggled to differentiate the devices to their applied use in the text because he had only memorized the definition of the devices. Michael could not apply the use of literary devices to the text, but his classmates were able to, as shown by the work of his classmate. See Appendix 3. Mrs. Kahana spoke with Michael one-on-one to further teach literary devices. She gave him several examples from Hamlet and then helped him step by step to find his own examples. Michael was able to find examples with her guidance. However, when she asked him to do it completely on his own, he could not. Mrs. Kahana wrote up a final observation concerning Michael and his lack of progress and is seeking assistance on how to help Michael most effectively. See Appendix 5.